Hey peeps, welcome to another video. Today it is part 5 of the new look 6080 sew along. So today is going to be the final construction part of our jacket, putting everything together and finishing it off beautifully. So let's get started. So the next thing that we need to do is pin all of this to our jacket. So we're going to do that now. It looks like a giant pile of glitter. Okay, so I have made my outer, I have made my lining. So the next thing we want to do is join it together all around the outside. But having made my first jacket, I didn't get to understitch the hem to the lining, and so I have decided to sew from just inside the side seam at the back all the way around to just inside the side seam at the other side, leaving this opening, which I hope will be big enough for me to go around and understitch the lining the whole way around, and then I can finish off the sleeves by machine as well. So I'm going to have a trick, I have a tip for doing the sleeves by machine so you don't have to slip stitch them in, and fingers crossed this will work for enabling me to understitch the seam allowance to the lining. So what you want to do is pin your lining, your main body of your jacket to your lining piece that you've finished all the way around the outside, just leaving the back bottom edge open, and make sure that you don't catch your sleeves in any of this stitching. So I'm going to stitch all the way around at 5/8 of an inch. Okay, so I've sewn all around the edge at 5/8 of an inch and I have left the bottom open. Now we're going to need to clip into our curves and grade some of our seams, and I'm actually going to go around with my pinking shears as well, because as you can see this stuff is fraying like anything and the pinking is sort of helping a little bit. So I'm going to do that, and when grading your seams you want to chop off more from the lining side than you do from the outer side, because that's the side that's going to get seen. But with this one we've got the collar as well, so you don't need to worry about that too much. But yeah, grade the seams, clip into the curves so everything will turn around nicely, and then we can get to some understitching. Okay, so I'm not sure how easy it's going to be to see, but I am understitching all of the all of the seam allowance and everything to the lining side. And so I've got the collar and the main fabric over here, I've got the lining and all of the seam allowance pushed over towards that edge, and I haven't turned the jacket round, I'm kind of just sort of like and I haven't pressed it either. I am using pressure from my fingers to pull it apart, going really slowly because there are some curves and stuff that we need to try and go around. You won't be able to go the whole way around, and don't go right up to the edge of where you've left your opening, but do as much as you can. And what you really want to do is get to sort of like the underarm area, because it's the front part that you want to be understitched. The back we can just press and it's not going to be a problem, but the front you want to understitch. So this is the collar and the main jacket side, this is the facing and the lining. All of the seam allowance is pushed over into this direction, and when I'm going around I'm just putting like pressure on both sides, pulling it apart, making sure everything's nice and flat, and just go really slowly, and we're stitching probably from the side seam to the side seam of our jacket. Okay, so I've turned everything through, and as you can see we've understitched all along there, and then on the right side you can't see anything. So the next thing that we need to do is finish off our sleeves. So I'm going to show you a trick, and I'm going to put you back on the ironing board to show you how I do it. Right, so you've got your, what you want to do is take your sleeve, your lining sleeve, and put it through your main sleeve like that, and you want to do that for both of them. So then got our sleeve here, and we've got our like creases from where we pressed it before we sewed everything, we sewed the sleeve seams together, because for the memory. So what we want to do is make sure that our sleeve lining is not twisted in it anyway. So I've got my sleeve seam there and my lining seam here. And pull your lining out a little bit more so you can see it, and fold it over on that crease, and then you want to pin that to your sleeve like this. You're going to make sure it's pinned nice and securely. So we've got our sleeve is not twisted in our shell lining, and we have folded the seam allowance under on both of them and pinned it together. So now what you want to do, and this is the second reason that we've left this big hole at the bottom, is you want to reach inside of your coat or your jacket. You want to reach inside and you want to grab your sleeve lining and pull it through gently, because you don't want it to dislodge that pin. And you're going to pull it through so that you get your jacket coming out as well. So pull, 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 but gently, and you should end up with those pinned together like that. Now you want to do it that way so that you don't end up with any weird Mobius loops. Don't ask me how I know, because I actually haven't made that mistake, but it's very easy to do if you try and pin it from this side just like this. So it's always best to kind of pin it from the right way out and then readjust your pins. So what you want to do is grab hold of the sleeve and the lining where you've pinned it together, and we're then going to remove that pin so that everything is lying nice and flat, and then we're going to put the pin back in. So we are then going to go around the entirety of the sleeve and pin the raw edge of the sleeve lining up with the raw edge of the sleeve outer. So you're going to go around the whole way and pin those together. Okay, so you should end up with something that looks like this, and then what we're going to do is we're going to sew this at 5/8 of an inch the whole way around, and you're going to put it under your presser foot so that you're sewing the two raw edges together, but you're obviously not sewing any of the sleeve to each other. So I'm going to change the camera angle a bit and show you what I mean, hopefully. This can get a bit tricky, so you just want to take it nice and slow. Be careful, you don't want to sew things together that should not be sewn together. You want to be able to use your sleeves, that is important, but this is very doable if you take it slowly. Right, so 5/8 of an inch, back stitch at the beginning and end, and just maneuver things around as you sew. Okay, so trim all your seams, trim all your threads even. Okay, so once you've done that, you should end up with something that looks like this. So you've got the two sleeves are sewn together at the raw edge, but nothing's caught. So what you then want to do is reach inside of your jacket to your main seam. You want to go in, you want to grab around the cuff area and pull, and that way you should have a beautifully finished and nicely usable and machine finished seam. So because we took a 1/4 of an inch off of our sleeve lining beforehand, as you can see, the lining is sitting nicely back from the hem of our cuff, which is why I filmed this second jacket, the making of, because it occurred to me after I'd done it and there was no way I was going to unpick the first one. And the first one's perfectly usable, but, and you know, I'm not going to redo it now, but yeah, you've got your lining sitting nicely recessed, but there is still some wiggle room in there because that's the fold line, so there's still room for the jacket lining to move up and down, which was what you want. And then also remember, we sewed the the sleeve cap of this at 3/8 of an inch, so there's some wiggle room up at that end as well. So I'm going to repeat the whole process and I'm going to show you as I go again, because the first time I found out a bit about this on the Sewaholic Monoro trench coat sew along, and it took me ages to wrap my head around about what was going on. But once you've done it once, you can use it for loads of different applications. So let's do it again. So we've got our sleeve lining nice and not twisted in our sleeve, and what you want to do is pull the lining just further out past the sleeve and fold back along that crease mark that we made earlier when we were pressing things, and then fold back the sleeve, your outer sleeve, and pin those together nice and securely. So I have the lining and the sleeve pinned together with the seams pinned together, and what I'm going to do now is reach up through the hole that we've left at the bottom of the jacket, grab hold of the lining and very gently pull it through to the wrong side. This fabric is not the most forgiving of fabrics. Be careful not to stick yourself with a pin, ask me how I know. So we end up with main fabric and lining pinned together at the middle. So what you then want to do is get the raw edges of your lining and raw edges of your sleeve and hold on to those together like that, and then go in and remove the pin, and then pin the lining and the sleeve together along the raw edge, and then go away all the way around and pin that in place. Okay, so I have the sleeve and the sleeve lining right sides together with the raw edges matched and pinned all in place all the way around like that. So we're then going to sew at 5/8 of an inch all the way around to secure that down. And again, it's a bit tricky, but you can do it. Take it slowly, don't stab yourself with pins. Back stitch at the beginning and the end. As I said, it's a little bit of manoeuvring. It is a bit tricky, but go slow, and it's definitely doable. If I can do it, you can do it, definitely. Trim my threads. Okay, so again, we have something that looks like this, all sewn together. So what you want to do is reach in, put your arm down the sleeve, get hold of the cuff, pull that back through on itself, and then give it all a nice little wiggle. Should work out. Get rid of threads. And there you go. You have a nicely finished cuff. So now we can finish off the hole that we've just used, so we need to turn the jacket back in on itself, sew this shut, and then we're going to turn everything through the side seam of the lining. So I'm going to turn it all back through, and again, make sure you don't sew your sleeves when you do this, because that would be bad. So everything through, and then we're going to pin up that open edge. We're going to pin that all together and sew it, finish that line of stitching at 5/8 of an inch. Okay, so I've just seam ripped open the long basting stitches that I made in the lining. So now I am going to, as Claire likes to say, pull an elephant through a cat flap. And you want to do this nice and carefully because you don't want to rip anything. Ask me how I know. And yeah, we're so close to being finished. So close. We have one sleeve. Ta-da! Look at your lovely new jacket. Okay, now this obviously needs a damn good pressing, and with the understitching that we did earlier, hopefully everything should roll really nicely to the inside. And so you just want to press it all the way around the edge, and then you need to slip stitch your lining closed. This bit you need to slip stitch this closed, and then you're done. So as always, if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section down below and I will do my best to answer them for you. I have really enjoyed making these jackets. I think that they are lovely. I think they work really well with my wardrobe. I'm already planning an outfit to make to go with this for the Christmas season. I can see myself wearing this over a jumpsuit of some description or another, and if you follow me on Patreon you'll know that the vote for next month's sew along is between the jumpsuits. So if you want to know what that's all about, head on down to my Patreon. You can find all the details in the description box down below. And I also want to say a massive thank you to everybody that does support me on Patreon. You guys picked this pattern. I have to say extra special thank you to the lovely Kay from Sunny Nunny who actually sent me this pattern. This is not one that I bought myself, it was the one that she sent me with a whole bunch of other patterns, and it just jumped out at me, and I love it. And I actually quite like quite a lot of the other elements from the pattern as well, so I can see myself making those in the future. But I would like to say a massive thank you to everybody who supports me on Patreon. You guys are absolutely amazing and totally making this possible, and if you look down here you will be seeing all of your names run across the screen really fast. So thank you. The support that you guys give me is absolutely amazing, and I just completely appreciate it. It's mind-blowing and also making me not have words. So I really hope you have enjoyed this sew along. It was a lot of fun to do, and I can actually see myself probably making another couple of these jackets. I'm allowed 5 of one pattern, and then I have to move on. That's a rule I've set for myself. But this is a really nice way of showcasing some funky fabrics like this brocade. So yeah, I can see me making more of these. Definitely. So if you've enjoyed today's video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye!